Communism is fully realized democracy. But how is that? It's because they are in direct opposition to natural law.
So you admit it. Well, there's that at least.
For someone who believes in natural law or common law, which I'll use them interchangeably,
natural law and common law are two different things. Natural law is a rational examination to determine moral and ethical principles. Common law is a system of legal precedents dating back thousands of years.
God is on top. He creates man and dictates to him morality.
That is not natural law. God's edicts, which are really just from priests claiming they've received edicts from God, are just as subjective and arbitrary as those cooked up by politicians and bureaucrats. God created all sorts of crazy laws according to the Bible, laws that natural law theory considers to be hideous injustices. I'm linking to Lysander Spooner's Natural Law or the Science of Justice so you can read more about this. Here's an excerpt. If there be in nature such a principle as justice, such a principle as honesty, such principles as we describe by the words mine and thine, such principles as men's natural rights of person and property, then we have an immutable and universal law, a law that we can learn as we learn any other science, a law that is paramount to and excludes everything that conflicts with it. A law that tells us what is just and what is unjust, what is honest and what is dishonest, what things are mine and what things are thine, what are my rights of person and property, and what are your rights of person and property, and where is the boundary between each and all of my rights of person and property and each and all of your rights of person and property. And this law is the paramount law and the same law all over the world, at all times and for all peoples, and will be the same paramount and only law at all times and for all peoples, so long as man shall live upon the earth.
Man then creates government to protect his property.
This claim has always seemed funny to me. Protect his property from whom? The concept of property rights was created because people needed their property protected from government. So it's ridiculous to say that we created government in order to protect property rights. Section 2 of Spooner's book goes into this in detail.
In democracy and communism, the pyramid is flipped upside down.
I have no idea where you're getting this pyramid crap from. Government and God have been commingled since the beginning. Separation of church and state is a new idea that's only come about in the last few centuries. The earliest governments were religions too, and both claimed prominence over man.
So then you ask yourself, how is that possible? It's these stupid compasses, I think, for the most part. They essentially only give you two options. Would you like to have a society without any government? Or would you like to have a society that has a government, but the government encroaches on between 1% and 100% of your rights?
And that is a true dichotomy, because all government ever has done, all government ever can do, is infringe on people's rights. Because government is a monopoly over the initiation of violence in a certain geographical area. Infringing on your rights is the only thing it can do. And again, the reason why we need the concept of rights in the first place is to protect against their violation by government.
And so that's the problem right there. They don't give you an option for 0% encroachment on your rights and the existence of a government.
For the same reason they don't give you the option of unicorns that fart rainbows. It's something that cannot exist.
Which gives people this misunderstanding that the primary function of government is to violate your rights.
Wrong way around. It's the fact that government exists to violate our rights that made people create these two-dimensional graphs in the first place.
The existence of government is dependent on how many of your rights they legislate away from you. But the government can't really legislate away rights. The government can't legislate away natural law as much as it can legislate away the law of gravity.
Do you even understand what you're talking about? No, clearly not. No, government can't make legislation that changes natural law, but are you honestly saying the government can't make legislation infringing on it? They can't change the natural law that says that we have the right to keep and bear arms, but they absolutely can infringe on that right, passing gun control laws and confiscating firearms and all of the other things we've seen them do all around the world. Jews absolutely have the right to life. Are you honestly saying that the Nazis didn't grossly infringe on those rights?
If you don't believe me, I'll give you $100 if you could show me a law. Show me anywhere in any Anglophonic country when that country banned murder, or when they made trespassing on somebody else's property illegal. You can't, because it just doesn't exist.
What? Let's play that again just to be sure what he said.
I'll give you $100 if you could show me a law. Show me anywhere in any Anglophonic country when that country banned murder, or when they made trespassing on somebody else's property illegal. You can't, because it just doesn't exist.
A country that banned murder or made trespassing illegal doesn't exist? And you want me to show you laws where they did? Okay, 18 U.S.C. section 1111. Paragraph A defines murder as well as first and second degree murder, and paragraph B says what the punishment should be. 25 CFR section 11.411 covers criminal trespass. Paragraphs A and B define what it is, and paragraph C specifies what kind of offense it is. Well, that was easy. You can just send the $100 to my PayPal, Chroma. I'll be expecting it any day now.
So to be clear, government never creates laws. That's created through the customs and morality of the people given to us by God.
I don't even know where to begin with this level of stupidity and ignorance. Government never creates laws, it's the customs and morality of the people? Then why is marijuana illegal?
It's a government that exists. It's a fully functioning government that also protects your property and serves justice. It retains your rights rather than legislating them away.
A government whose sole purpose is to protect you from itself. Makes perfect sense.
Government is a utility for society that procures justice, preserves rights, and does not legislate rights or wrongs, because Christianity already did that.
Do you really need me to go over some of the atrocities committed by Christian theocracies?
So this political compass looks more like this in reality when we take into consideration natural law. And there's still no natural law in this compass because you either have no government or you have communism.
You're completely clueless as to what the law even is. I guess I'm going to have to link to The Law by Frederick Bastiat as well. We do not depend on government to determine the law. Real law is the result of human interaction. Government just creates fake laws like laws allowing slavery. And the church you keep bleating on about was right there in amongst it all. For thousands of years, governments, which were churches as well, governed the institution of slavery, and there was no serious opposition until the Western ideals of the Enlightenment, including natural law, were formed. Medieval Christian governments had slavery. Medieval Islamic governments had slavery, and many still do. Sub-Saharan African governments, many of them Christian, had slavery, and many still do. And they universally agreed that God didn't condemn it at all. He had many chances to do so in the Bible, and not once did he say it was wrong. In fact, there are many times throughout the Old and New Testaments when he commanded that slaves obeyed their masters. Here's the glaring contradiction here. A government that only protects people's persons and property from force and fraud must not commit it itself, including the forced taxation of the people. But if it doesn't commit any aggression itself, then what's to stop people from forming a competing government and choosing that one instead? What's to stop there from being multiple governments in a geographical area with people selecting whichever one they feel gives them the greatest protection? And once you have that, how is it even a government anymore?
All you have to do is simply ask yourself in each situation, is somebody's property being destroyed? Or is there an injustice happening? If no, then there's nothing wrong with it. There can't be, because nothing's wrong going on.
This was all settled in the 19th century. The law was published in 1850. Natural law was published in 1882. Here you sit in the 21st century with all of this history and philosophy at your fingertips, pretending to lecture the rest of us on this issue when you haven't even bothered looking at any of it yourself.
But I'll give you a few examples just to humor you. Do you want the legalization of heroin? The answer to this is, ask yourself, whose property is being destroyed or what injustice is occurring through the acts of either selling, possessing, or using heroin? That's it. That's the answer right there. There's obviously no property being destroyed or injustice happening by somebody doing these acts, so how could it possibly be quote-unquote illegal?
As Bastiat showed, it can't be against genuine law, but governments can and have passed laws to stop it, contrary to your earlier claim. Surely you're not going to deny the existence of the war on drugs.
What's your position on gay marriage? To answer this, it's slightly different, because this is a misdirected question. This isn't a question about government policy. You should be asking the Pope.
I don't care what the Pope has to say on this, any more than I care what the President has to say. They're not hurting anyone, so leave them alone.
Because marriage is a function of the church.
Lie, 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 lie. Marriage dates back tens of thousands of years before any religions were founded.
Marriage is a function of the church, not the state.
Again, throughout history, they were the same thing. They only started being separated a few centuries ago.
Children are your property, whether you like it or not.
What? Children are not your property. They're their own sovereign entity. You're the child's trustee, not the child's owner. And what point are you even trying to make here?
So in conclusion, a traditionalist cannot be plotted on a graph that indicates how much legislation from the government violates your rights. That's just not how traditional society works.
You've shown you don't have the first clue how any of this works.
It's a certain organization of society, and you need to wake up to the fact that morality is the function of law.
Organization of society does not mean government. Here's a relevant bit from the law. But what did the socialists do? They cleverly disguised this legal plunder from others, and even from themselves, under the seductive names of fraternity, unity, organization, and association. Because we ask so little from the law, only justice, the socialists thereby assume that we reject fraternity, unity, organization, and association. The socialists brand us with the name individualist. But we assure the socialists that we repudiate only forced organization, not natural organization. We repudiate the forms of association that are forced upon us, not free association. We repudiate forced fraternity, not true fraternity. We repudiate the artificial unity that does nothing more than deprive persons of individual responsibility. The worst thing about this video is, not only was everything he said completely wrong, not only were his conclusions absolutely bonkers, but there doesn't even seem to be any real point here. He claimed that he was refuting two-dimensional political graphs like the political compass or the Nolan chart, but what he was really arguing against was a one-dimensional straw man version, and even claimed there was nothing between the two extremes. None of it had anything to do with 2D political charts. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, why not hit like and subscribe? And to make sure I can produce more, support this channel on Patreon and Maker Support. And check out all the other great content here, like this video selected especially for you.